Welcome back to Worlds Within, where story becomes space. We're your hosts, Alyssa and Ash, and every episode we explore fictional worlds that don't just live on the page, they pull you in, build themselves around you, and let you wander through them. This is a podcast for readers who don't just love books, they live in them. We dive deep into sensory storytelling, character perspectives, and the world-building mechanics that turn fiction into a fully immersive experience. As you've seen on our socials, you know that today's book was a surprise reveal. We unwrapped Krista Street's Court of Winter and the second book, Thorns of Frost. So we got a double deep dive.
It's a twofer.
It was a surprise reveal, not only in the content, but also in the quantity of books that we were going to be discussing. So let's get it started.
Let's do it. Y'all know the drill by now. First up, we have our plot teaser. Brewing today is a licorice and peppermint tea. The peppermint gives us that winter chill, right? It's kind of cooling. It's, holiday-ish. And the licorice here is very grounding and is a slight nod to Alara's affinity for plants, crops, working the land, since licorice is coming from a root.
And I love the, spicy component that gives it a little bit more of a bite than just the regular peppermint.
A subtle bite, kind of like the level of spice in this book.
Fair.
Let's go to the synopsis. Being a defective marks me in the eyes of the soulless fae. Wingless, magicless, weak. To my kind, I'm nothing. Not when strength is needed to survive the perpetual snow and ice that shrouds our northern continent in endless winter. But I've persevered, living a meaningful yet simple life with my sister, until the hated crown prince of the winter court thunders into our village. Prince Noravin's massive black wings and potent magic cloud my senses and steal my breath. He's beautiful yet brutal, so when he whisks me away and locks me in his castle, I'm certain my death is tomorrow's promise. Yet my end doesn't come, not when the prince looks at me with hunger in his gaze while revealing the true reason for my abduction. Now I'm faced with an impossible choice. Either join forces with the hated prince who's robbed me of everything I love, or watch our kingdom start a devastating war. And that was just the synopsis for Court of Winter, which is book 1. Didn't include synopsis for book 2, but it just continues.
Yeah. So I had seen this on a couple of book talk lists for more smutty lists, which was shocking given specifically the first book.
Yeah.
But other than that, this wasn't one I was jonesing to get to. I will say I did end up reading all 4. Because they were easy to just breeze through, and the spice level significantly increases book over book.
Okay.
I will say. So
there you go. Yeah, I didn't have this on my radar at all. We had our short list going of titles for this season, and initially we had tabled this because we thought we had a really good set 5, or set 4 at least, and we're back and forth on book 5 for this season. But we both kept coming back to this one and kept thinking maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do this. And maybe we were just drawn to that well-written synopsis, honestly, because that pulls me in more so than I think about our last few books. But otherwise, I had no relationship to this book. And very much agree. It is a delightful, easy, popcorn read, especially coming off of Spinning Silver and Bear and the Nightingale, which were heavier and intellectually challenging. This was put your brain in a box. It felt almost like a show you could have on in the background while scrolling on your phone and you wouldn't miss anything. That's how I felt about this book.
I actually did play some games while I was reading, some math games, because I was all right, we'll engage the brain.
I need to engage
my brain a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
I enjoyed it well enough. I think it did highlight some tropes that I'm very over. And actually, after reading the first 2, and I started the third, I DNF'd the third book, I had to come out of fantasy because I was I just can't right now. I can't do it. This I don't know, ending of book 1 made me want to go to book 2, did that immediately, very excited to read book 2, thought it could have been combined into one single book and it was just chopped in half. But overall first impression, this is Timu Akatar.
Yeah. So that's a really good descriptor for this series. And like, it's funny because I texted you and I was like, I ended up reading all 4, and you were like, why?
Yeah, I said, lol, why?
And the answer was like, I said I wanted to know what happened. And you're like, well, did she save the world? Yes. As we know. But I wanted to know how. And there were some things that were like, I have expectations and I want to see how that pans out. Sure. And I even told you, I was like, I was a little underwhelmed by some of the things that we like hoped for or predicted in like the 3rd and 4th book. But it wasn't bad. Again, it was nice to just sit on the couch with like the Christmas tree on and like just be
easy,
easy and chill and relaxed. It was a nice break.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I won't probably read it again, but like,
no.
But like this would be a good like airplane book or airplane series or
one
like,
that
travel.
I wouldn't feel bad leaving behind on the plane.
Right.
Yeah. I like I mentioned I took a break from fantasy, and as Worlds Within listeners will know, I quite love birds. And so the book I read after this was called Birding with Benefits. And y'all, it was so great. But we're not here to talk about that. But it is a contemporary romance founded in reality. So there's no fae, there's no wings, there's no bargains.
I think there might be some wings.
Oh, you're right. Thanks. There are some wings. Oh, man. All right. Well, let's get into the world building that Krista Street has at play here for Court of Winter. So first up, I wanted to center us on location, because location seems pretty central to this world. She spends a lot of time telling us about the continent that Alara is on, Alara being our main character. So we are on Solace continent, which has various territories. They're very clearly defined by boundaries with mountains, sea. Solace is in this perpetual winter. It's snow, cold, icy. It's interesting. It has 3 moons and a green sky, but it's never really explained why.
Yeah.
Why is the sky green? Not sure. Just kind of a cool feature.
Yeah.
Or sometimes like pink, purple, cotton candy colored clouds.
Yeah.
Why?
Like not white clouds?
Nope.
They actually
don't know.
In one of the books, they like talk about like they visit Earth.
They do?
Yes.
Oh God.
And
this is why I stopped.
Yeah, they visit Earth, and oh yeah, by the way, there's spoilers. I'm so sorry, we didn't tell you that.
Yeah, as if you didn't know.
As if you didn't know. They visit Earth, and like they're seeing like blue sky with white clouds, and they're like, how do you know when a storm is coming? And they're like, because then the clouds turn gray and black. And they're like, whoa.
Yeah. I will say that the naming of the territories in Solace is very redundant and not different enough for me, because they're Mervily, Isili, Prinali, whatever they are, they all end in that Lee, and they're not clearly defined different enough, at least in books 1 and 2, to make a noticeable difference.
I made a note when I was reading, and I told you, I was like, I have a note and I don't remember what it was, but I went back and I looked for it.
By golly, she's got it.
The naming conventions in this book, not just for the territories, but for the people too, like Daisium. And this might just be because we are currently on a Bluey kick with my daughter, but it sounded like names that Bluey and Bingo would make up for like, like, oh, yes, thank you, Daisium. This is like, that's all I could hear when I was reading some of these. And I was like,
it might be because you're on a Bluey kick.
It might be on a Bluey kick, but I'm not wrong either.
No.
Like they definitely, I could hear Bluey saying, making them up.
Yes, absolutely. Another thing, the capital of Solace is Solacarium. Like it's not inventive, but it is home to 1 million fae just in the capital, which gives us a sense of how large this continent is and how large the capital is. And we get a description of just the castle architecture, right? It is, quote, glistening droplets of frosted glass, bricks of snow, and twisted white metal, which I wanted to pull out because it helps build out the visual scene of what Solace and Solacarium look like. And as I mentioned, Solace continent is where we stay, and it is home to one race of fae, we'll say. They are known for having white, silver, blonde hair, blue eyes, and wings. And that's where Alara stands out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, her obviously she, in the synopsis we get, she's wingless. So that in and of itself is huge. Because like everybody has large black wings or has black wings, not necessarily large, but like black wings, white hair. She has black hair and no wings.
No wings.
So she does have the blue eyes. But that's all she's got.
Yeah. And what I did like though is that Alara is fully from this world. She is other within the world that she lives in, but she is a part of the world, not like Feyre coming to it from an outsider. She's an outsider in her own way, but she is still Fae through and through. We'll come back to this one. I was looking at my notes, y'all, and I was like, I want to come back to this, but it's a gripe. So I want to go through the rest of the Fae races that we know about, at least in the first 2 books, since we're kind of talking through like location. We have the Nahlis continent, which is south of Solis, and it has a different climate and a different Fae race. It's not as clearly defined. It's mentioned throughout that they just have many skin tones and many hair colors and many wing types. And then you have the Glass and Barrier Islands, which is off the coast of Solis and has the Loch and Fae, which are much more interesting to me. However, I did give up about 20% into book 3, so I didn't really follow them through. But they are like able to breathe underwater, to kind of turn into fish. They give you a little bit like of a Atlantis underwater.
They're very much mermaid Fae.
Yeah,
like because
very cool.
In the 3rd book, we do explore like the underwater portion of their kingdom.
Very cool.
And so like they are half fish, half Fae, which we get some very interesting descriptions of them.
Okay, we're just looking at the first 2, y'all. To come back to an earlier point, as we're talking about location and greetings, right? So Alara has to meet a lot of people as she's whisked away from her little village in Mervily to Solisarium. It is always first, last, daughter of the territory every single time. I am Alara Siri, daughter of Mervily territory. Fist to chest, which is the standard Solis greeting. Like, it's mentioned every single time. And so many of the other characters refer to her exactly as that, first, last, daughter of Mervily territory, which is so annoying and I felt like it was added just to like reach a certain page count.
Yeah. Well, at least we mostly only got it with her. If we had gotten
with everybody,
with like specifically Noravan,
oh God.
Like if we'd gotten the full name of the prince every single time.
Right. Yeah, it's very Queen Daenerys, Breaker of Chains, yada, yada, yada. That is Prince Noravan's full title.
Yeah.
It's lines and lines and lines. Also within this continent are some mythical animals in this world, which some of them are very cool. One of them is a Colantha, which is like a panther. Another is an ice bear, which is really just a polar bear. And then there's Snowgum, which I just noted as Sprocket, which is one of Ash's cats.
It's very on brand.
Right?
Because
that's exactly what it is.
And if he could turn invisible like the Snowgum, I would be just absolutely screwed.
Yeah, for sure. But the Snowgum is like an impossibly large cat. I, in my head, pictured like big bobcat that was also able to turn invisible. But my note said Snowgum, Snowdum name. Because a Snowgum is it's not a scary name, like an ice bear. You know? Ugh.
Even Calantha, like it's not scary, but it's not like,
it sounds like a plant.
Silly.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It just, she tried. She tried. Where else I felt she tried was this magic system in this world that maybe has some gods.
Yes.
Maybe. At least in the first 2 books, the gods are mentioned casually, but there's no like devotion to them. There's no great descriptions of who they are, what they do, like how they worship them, anything like that. They're just mentioned like, oh yeah, the god of blah, blah, blah is over here.
They just exist.
Yeah. But what the first 2 books central kind of tension is the loss of Aurum. And Aurum in this world is a magic or spirit or life force or whatever that helps the land and crops grow despite being in perpetual winter. This is created or replenished by celestial events. So a eclipse or a comet, like all of these events are supposed to replenish the land's Aurum. However, in our first book, we find that the fields are failing and the Aurum is not being replenished despite these events occurring.
Yeah. And I, sorry. I think that it's like a fascinating concept that it like, because the Aurum magic is separate from the magic that like lives within. So they're two types. So it's almost like the earth has its own magic. But it is very clear that this is how where with Akatar, we were like, okay, the magic is refueled by, like, we fill the land with magic from this particular ritual.
But then we also get it
also get it from the land. Like, this was very clear. Like, you have what you have. Like, you have a potential.
Yep.
And that is what it is. And then it's refueled through sleep, at like rest and food, like, and time. Like, that's, as you use it, it depletes. I felt like it was very...
Yeah, the personal magic, very clearly defined. And they're called affinities in this book, which are like gifts, I guess, like what you have a magical gift for. But yeah, very clear that it is maybe hereditary or like genetic, passed down like within a family line. It is also just something that you can replenish through sleep, through nourishment, which I really liked. And then, like you were saying, very clearly different than the Aurum, which comes from a different source and has a different function. I really loved the scenes early in the book of Alara working the fields and like walking into her crop or into her garden and connecting with the Aurum, and her saying, "My crops shone in a rainbow of colors. Each vegetable, fruit, grain, and plant thrived in the rich soil blessed with Aurum in our frozen land. And seeing my plants made me feel as though I'd come home." Really loved that and thought it was so refreshing, especially being in this season of Frozen Realms, of like, oh, there's something lush here. There's something growing. It's not just like hard frozen, and it's something like the flower growing through the concrete. Really liked those scenes.
Well, and the concept of like it being like when she's in her garden, and it's like she steps into the garden, and the gale that is just blowing around her just like dissipates in that small stretch. And so she's like, she's moving and she's warm and she's cozy and she's working. But then like when Voral like comes for her and like pushes her out, like there's that like line of demarcation.
Yeah.
And I think that was actually really well done.
Agree. Very much agree. We talked a little bit about affinities, but I want to talk to them a little bit more. I thought this was interesting and a little all over the place in terms of world building. A Fae in Solace can have multiple affinities, which is typically a sign of strength. It manifests during maturing, which sounds like puberty. And Alara never manifested. So we know that she's already defective because she's wingless and has black hair. And now we learn that she's magicless. But what I didn't love about the affinities is they were some like loosely categorized. Right? Like you could have a sensory affinity, you could have an elemental affinity, and then it was like these random others. Like you could have a beauty affinity, you could have a warrior affinity. Like it was just like, oh, I want this character to be really strong in this one way, so I'm just going to make it magic.
Yeah. There
was no rhyme or reason or boundaries in the affinity magic. And that kind of bugged me.
Yeah, they were like... There was not a looseness. It was very hodgepodge.
Yes.
Like, and maybe there are more that we just like
maybe
weren't given because of like, but also it may just be like, I don't know, because there is like the beauty affinity, right? But like other people manifest a beauty affinity in a different way.
Yeah.
So like you can have a creation affinity.
Right.
And it may be for music, or it may be for art, or it may be for like construction. Like, so that like, it was like very, very broad funnels.
Yes.
But not very clear on how you then delineate from within that.
Yeah. And like you said, two Fae can have the same affinity, but there are levels to the affinity. So not only the number of affinities it determines someone's strength, but also the power that they have over that affinity or how strong that is within them also helps determine their strength. So like Vorl and Norvin had the same illusion affinity, but Norvin, of course, being our crown prince, is much stronger and could see the illusion mark or the magic mark that Vorl's illusion left on Alara, which reminded me so much of Crimson Moth and like Rebel Witch and like the one that the moth that she leaves behind every time she does magic.
Yeah.
We get an early glimpse that something is brewing within Alara when she is first coming into Solacerium. I thought it was really well done when those two guys were fighting over, I don't even remember what, but she sees the glimmer of that soul out of the corner of her eye leave the night. And it quote, a shadow shimmered along the dying male's form. My gaze was fixated on that shadow. And I highlighted that and I was like, ooh, this is interesting. Because yes, this is a romantasy. Like our female main character has to be special. She has to be different. But this was an interesting way to make her special. Like, oh, she can see souls. Kind of cool.
Well, and like obviously from the beginning, when we know that like fields are not doing as great in general, but her garden is thriving. Right. And she like talks about how she got all of the Acorlus off this one vine and how big they are. And this garden can feed us for the whole winter. Yeah. Like we know that something is special. But it sounds like some kind of like farming or gardening, which special, but like, not life-changing, not
domestic.
Very domestic, which I was excited about.
Me too.
Personally, because like, then like, oh, okay, you can be special without being like super.
Yeah.
But I did, in that morbid sense, I did like the idea that, oh, well, maybe it is some kind of like life-giving life.
Yes.
Breeding, whatever, like, I don't like the word breeding in there, but like the life giving or life saving. Yeah. And that like, that idea was really exciting.
Yeah. And the fact that she is then the opposite of Norvin, right? Like Norvin's the soul snatcher. He's the death, the death fae. He can suck people's souls out of them. And
the death master.
Like, okay. This is a little dramatic. But surprise, surprise, they're fated mates. And of course they are, but it was nice to see Alara's affinity be the exact opposite and overpower Norvin's from time to time.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. Okay. Continuing to talk about magic because there's just everything else in here. There are spells and potions. There are wards and enchantments. And I said, do you need affinities for these too? Or is this just like come by because it's in the world? There's mention of enchanted trays, which I thought were so great. These are just silver serving trays that float around on their own. We see them at the inn early on. I think it's Lys Lodge. And then in the hall in the throne room. That whimsy was really great. They missed phase, which is just winnowing. Like you think of a place and there you go.
Which is very, I mean, that's everywhere.
Yeah. So I mentioned this. Norvin and Alara are fated mates, which in this book is like, oh, the gods made us. The gods made the mate bond. Like we're made for each other. Like blah, blah, blah. However, y'all, in the first book, for the entire book, we, through Alara's story, know that her parents and her brother are presumed dead at Norvin's hand. And yet she still flirts with him and falls for him. She like hates herself for it. She hates him. She has such rage towards him, but she flirts with him and then at one point says, I laughed, unable to help myself. Then I realized I was laughing with the male who murdered my family. Yeah, what are we doing, girl?
I don't know. Okay, I don't hold it against her too much because there was the conflict. It was like the natural, like you get in the moment.
Yeah.
But she holds on to that hatred and
as
that
she
anger.
Should.
Like she does, like it's a struggle, but she does do it. She's like, because she says throughout the whole, like, I cannot be with you.
Yeah.
Like, it does not matter that I'm attracted to you. It doesn't matter that I've seen other sides of you. This is...
You killed my family.
You killed my family. I can't accept this. Because even when she does realize that they are mates.
Mm-hmm.
She says,
I'm not doing it.
I can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
I cannot accept this.
Yeah. And that changes in book 2 when we find out, I said presumed dead, so spoiler, they're not dead. Norvin has created a bubble of a town for Fae that he didn't want to kill at the king wanted him to kill because they were bringing forward all of these like, hey, things are failing. Hey, we're hungry. All of these Fae are just disappearing, but we find out that Norvin has created this safe haven for them. But conveniently, at the same time, it is also the year that Norvin is supposed to take a wife. So he found his fated mate. Oh, suddenly she's, sees her parents and her brother, so she can fall for him now. But book 2 introduces this other plot point in the world of the Rising Queen trials. And King, what's his name? King
Norvin.
No.
Novakin.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Novakin.
Because every time I was reading it, see, there's that, but also I was reading it as like Dovahkiin, like from Skyrim. So.
Okay. Nerd. Has said, now we want to have this arranged marriage for Prince Norvin because we are continuing on to be the most powerful Fae, blah, blah, blah. So these 3 other Fae women come to the Rising Queen trials and they have multiple affinities. And then sweet little Alara is like, I guess I'm going to enter, or is forced to enter because she manifests a handful of affinities. So she has to win these Rising Queen trials to marry Prince Norvin and like seal the mating bond. And spoiler, she doesn't win. She doesn't win, and Norvin's hand is promised to the worst of the Rising Queen contestants. But yeah,
I liked her though.
I did too. I mean, she was an interesting foil to Alara, and I think she was really, her name is Georgiana, whatever. She was a really cunning competitor. But I talk about this because it's like a convenient plot device, right? Like, oh, this is really convenient to like help us further along the story or expand the world through conflict and tension, and not just, I don't know. It was silly. It's also silly to me. It's, again, Timu Akatar.
Yeah. I did like the Queen trials because it allowed Alara to make friends within the castle, which I think was nice. It gave her an opportunity to naturally explore and develop her gifts. Because I feel like in a lot of these stories, it's just like you're just figuring it out and then you just became powerful.
Yeah.
Whereas this, she legitimately worked every day.
Yeah, she was training.
Like she was every day of the week except for one. She got one rest day. And like she was working with a legitimate tutor. Like they explain a lot of like.
Her tutor's affinity was drawing out others' affinities. Again, you could just have an affinity for anything.
Yeah.
I have affinity for tea making. I have affinity for click-clacking on a keyboard. Anyway.
But like there was this, it gave us that legitimacy of her increase in power and her increase in knowledge and ability that I appreciated that we do because we don't always get it.
Agreed. I thought book 2 was better than book 1.
Agreed.
I just think the pacing worked really well in both books, actually. But I thought book 2, I really just love a trial, I think is what it comes down to. It gave me Hunger Games vibes, which I really just love.
Serpent with the Kajari.
I love trials.
So
I love them. All right, cool. Anything else about world building before we pull out some quotes for sensory immersion?
No, I think we've talked about what there is to talk about.
Oh gosh, okay. That seems backhanded. Alrighty. Some of the things I do want to talk about is the way that Norvin smells. Right? He smells of cedar and snow, which I thought was really beautiful. Alara said it was crisp and alluring, but then he also tasted of sin and snow, spice and fire, which I thought was a really great, just like romantic description of our prince here. Thought that was nice. Also really liked snow laced the top of Prince Norvin's head, like dancing off the flakes in his silver hair. I thought that was really great.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of like personification and also like a lot of unrelated but really well done like comparisons. And you pulled this one out. As the soil sank through my fingers, I would think of the softness of my mother's hugs and the scent of her lemony lotion every time she braided my hair.
Yeah.
And like I can see that scene, and I can like, there's nothing like a good hug.
Yeah.
And like finding that somewhere else. Like, I mean, I think I've used this, and I know that this is common, but like when you wrap your hands around a mug of tea, like that being compared to a warm hug, and like that feeling, while they're very different sensations, create the same feeling.
Yeah.
So
creating that emotion. Something else I called out. This is a scene where I think Newin, who is Prince Norvin's brother, if Prince Norvin is the heir, Newin is the spare. He whisks Alara away from one of the balls that they have and hands her a glass of champagne, and she remarks about how great it is. And he said, the ball's champagne always is. They flavor it with berries and chocolate to heighten the taste. And I'm sorry, chocolate champagne? Never had it.
but I want it.
I don't know that I do.
I do. I highlighted.
What are you going to put, like, cocoa powder in it? What are you doing?
No, like... So I think this...
A little Hershey's chocolate syrup, and you just zhuzh it around like a chocolate milk?
Just like a chocolate milk, yeah. No, but I think... I don't know how you would do it, but I like the idea of using notes of cocoa. And maybe you infuse it with, like, cocoa nibs. Maybe. That would make the most sense to me now that I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah.
But, like... I mean, you think classic things... chocolate-covered strawberries and champagne.
Yep.
So, like, you're
Fair.
eating them together anyway. So, like, yeah, if you can infuse all of those, and it's magic. So, I'm sure that there's a way.
It's magic.
So, if I could magically infuse my champagne with berries and...
You would.
And chocolate, I absolutely would, because I think that sounds fantastic.
Yeah. And then another one I pulled out, which is in... Book 2, was calming scents of lavender filled the air. The setting sunlight streamed into the windows, and the crackling fire filled the hearth. Really painted the scene for me. And this is when Alara is coming to Norvin's chambers after he's healing after, I think, a snow gum attack. Maybe. Gashes.
Yeah, there's the snow
Guts coming out.
Lots of intestines.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything other sensory emotion? Oh, I did want to call this one out. So Ash and I are both from the Midwest, where it does get cold. And I think we have all, those of us who've experienced like true winters and being very cold, experienced the tensing of your body when you're somewhere warm and someone opens the door and the cold air rushes in. And it was done so well in this book. Snow flew inside as a light gust hit us from the north, and a few villagers shrieked and yelled in complaint. When that happened, I heard it in my head because I've been in situations where I've been the one to go like, like, who let all the cold air in? Like, you just know that sound when someone opens the door and cold air rushes in somewhere warm.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
The other one I had pulled out that I really liked. So at one point they are walking and like it's a fresh snow and like the silence of like when fresh snow dampens everything, like you have to have experienced that to like feel it, but I felt it. And that felt really cool because I was like, okay, yeah, I know exactly what this deadened, dampened sound, silence sounds like.
I love a quiet snow walk.
So
our two main characters here are Alara and Norvin. I think we've talked about both quite a bit. I don't know if there's anything else that I would add. Alara becomes very magical. She manifests. She has a moment of, I think, incredible greatness at the end of book 1, where her affinities kind of burst out of her as Vorl is attacking her in a fire tornado. And then as Norvin, who is ultra possessive because he has recognized the fated mate bond, which I couldn't stand how possessive he was. That's what truly drove me to like take a break because I was like, I just can't do this. Who starts sucking Vor's soul out, Alara puts it back in, which I thought was like, oh shoot, she's super strong. And this is really interesting tension between the two of them. Alara does have a sister, Kalis, who loves and cares for her quite a bit, who eventually comes to the castle, and it's really nice when they can have those moments together. And she, at the end of book 2, escapes with her sister.
those are the big ones.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of really good color characters. Like the guards offer some real, like it's a well-rounded group. I do love Kalis. I think the other two princesses in the Rising Queen trial are both well done, where one is much more soft and like truly kind, and the other one is just not bad, but like has a little bit of that edge, but is still nice to Alara.
Yeah.
So I think we get a lot. And Matron Olsander, the tutor.
She's great.
I think there's so many good like side characters that are not deep, but offer good color to the whole story.
Yeah. Even Nguyen. I liked Nguyen quite a bit. And early in book 1, when Alara meets Nguyen, they have like a nice flirty banter. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And kind of wanted her to explore things with Nguyen, even while Nori was having this possessive fated mate situation happening that Alara had yet to recognize. But Nguyen was really great.
Yeah, agreed.
At least in the first 2 books. And I don't know how he turns out in the last 2. And I won't.
Or I'll tell you later.
That's fair. Anything else before we go to our final segment?
I think it's time for portal moments.
Yay! All right. You know the drill, y'all. I said that at the top, but portal moments, it's the last bit here. At the end of the episode, we talk about peak portal moment where we felt the most immersed, the most pulled in, and the world felt the biggest. Okay.
So mine is from book 2.
Okay.
And it was for the 3rd Rising Queen trial.
Yeah. Ugh, I know what you're going to talk about.
I have had nightmares of being buried alive and of like bugs crawling on my skin.
Ugh.
And the way Georgiana wields her manipulation to make you just believe that something has happened, I really appreciated it because it's very similar to illusion magic, but it's not. It's just
in your mind.
It's just in your mind. Like whereas illusion magic, everyone can see.
Yeah.
I thought that was just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
And also so terrifying because like I was feeling smothered and I was like having to catch my breath.
Yeah.
And like I was itchy because I could feel things crawling on me.
It was very fear factor.
It was very fear factor. And growing up in the 90s, like that was a very visceral scene because of that. So yeah, the
heebie-jeebies.
Oh, so many heebie-jeebies.
Heebie-jeebies. I loved. Yeah, Georgiana was so cunning in her use of her affinities in the Rising Queen trials. The manipulation in the last one, and the one where she like electrified the ground, knowing they all had to go underwater. And she's like, the minute they touch the ground, they're going to get electrocuted. I was like, dang it, she's smart. Y'all, I just knocked down our book stand.
Oh, no.
It's okay. It's all right.
Fine. But also like the fact that she had the wherewithal to be like, I'm literally just going to stand here.
Yeah.
Not just the electrocution portion, but like, I'm going to stand here and then when somebody gets it, I'm going to get it from them when they get out.
And if you need a smart, cunning, strong queen, Georgiana makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alara, you're too soft. You too soft, girl. All right. My portal moment is in book 1.
Okay.
And it is the baths in the cave at Lys Lodge. So Alara she can't fly because she doesn't have any wings. And also she can't miss phase because she doesn't have any magic at this point. And so they have to carry her. And Norvin is carrying her and that drains his magic, yada, yada, yada. So they have to spend the night at Lys Lodge, which is just an inn. And the baths are just a hot spring. But the way that they are described as this very peaceful, serene place tucked into a mountainside with snow and a waterfall trickling down. It's circled with plants and vines, which we know that Alara has a love for and a tenderness for. It's very lush. It is hot water. The steam is rising. And even like Krista Street writes about the scent of the soap that Alara uses. And just that moment of peace and relaxation and relishing in the warmth was so beautiful to me, and I could picture myself there. At one point, Alara is like laying back against the vines, like on the edge of the pool, and she's noticing the stars and appreciating in this moment of terror where she thinks she's gonna die. Like at least she can appreciate the peace in this moment. And then she goes behind the waterfall and discovers this cave with a ceiling of 1,000 diamond-like stones that shone like distant stars. And that, love. It continues on from there, but that part took me out. But this initial, like, Alara just settling into, just having gratitude and in the moment of something very scary and very unknown. And it was really well done. Beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to be in a hot spring on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean. Yeah. Because, it was very peaceful and relaxing. And like I could be there. Yeah. It would be nice.
I would like to be there. I don't think I would like to find Prince Norvin in the cave.
Well, no. But everything up until that point.
Everything up until that point. Yeah. I think that's a wrap on this episode.
And on this season.
We did it. We made it through Frozen Realms, y'all. We survived the winter. But before we go, let's give Court of Winter and Thorns of Frost our immersion rating on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, from an immersion standpoint, I'm going to go with like a 2.
Yeah.
Just because, like, while there was some great sensory description, like, there was great sensory description in some places, and I do think that a lot of the magical mechanics were well done compared to some other books we've read. This was a popcorn book.
For sure.
There's no vibes. 10 out of 10. I enjoyed slipping into it from like I could turn my brain off and like dissociate kind of way. Mm-hmm. But like I wasn't thinking about it. And like even at first when I started and I was like, ooh, I'm going to hypothesize this and I think this and this is, I bet this, that. I was wrong.
None of it.
I put more thought into this plot than Krista Street did.
You did.
So
yeah. When you hear hooves, think horses, not zebras. Like you should have thought horse or dommels, as they're called in this way. That's another mythical creature. Anyway, yeah. I'm right there with you. I think I'm like a 3 out of 10. There are some really immersive moments, but they're few and far between. And truly, you could have swapped out the frozenness of it all and put it somewhere else and the story would work just the same. There was no, I don't know, I didn't feel deeply entrenched into this world. The magic, I was like, yeah, whatever. Okay, cool. Affinity is kind of fun, interesting way to think about it. But their broadness and the lack of depth bothered me. It felt like Krista Street had a checklist of different things that work in the romantasy genre, and she just nailed them all and tried to connect them very loosely with plot, or conveniently with plot devices like, fated mates, check. Trials, check. Bargains, check. Eternal marks and tattoos. And yeah, it was enjoyable. As I mentioned, I did have to take a break from the genre after this because I just couldn't do it anymore. And I think that might be because of the way it's written. It felt recycled and not fresh and invigorating to me. So 3 out of 10 portals.
Yeah. Well, I think we did it.
We did it. Thanks for braving the icy world of Solace with us, where winter never loosens its grip. Magic arrives just at the right time, and something deeper lurks beneath the surface. Court of Winter and Thorns of Frost remind us that some book tropes and trials are indeed still fun, even when steeped in snow.
This wraps up our Frozen Realms season of Worlds Within. We'll be taking another short break to warm back up, and we'll be coming back for season 3 with a new theme, Behind Closed Doors.
Ooh, so exciting for this one.
Some doors are locked to keep danger out. Others are locked to keep power in. But next season, we're stepping inside houses and hidden places where secrets shape lives, and opening the wrong door can change everything. Until next time, keep wandering the worlds that pull you in. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and pay attention to see what's behind door number 1.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks again for joining us for another episode of Worlds Within, where story becomes space. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Worlds Within Pod for more episodes, sensory guides to your favorite books, and more.
And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Bye!